Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
I don't know how long this podcast is for the world. When we spent the first 30 minutes of you guys getting here complaining about our slowly degrading bodies, and the 30 seconds before we hit record, we all just kind of stared into space. Because it's past 7:30 p.m. and thus we're slowly shutting down.
This is the latest that I've had pants on in a long time instead of my joggers.
To what do we owe the honor?
The belt was already on them.
That
was why.
A true gentleman. Also, I need you to stop creating a delineation between joggers and pants, because I need joggers to be accepted as pants soon. Because
they have to be, because I only have one pair of pants and 3 pairs of joggers.
I know. We're slowly returning to the office, and I'm like, I have not equipped myself over the last 2 years to be wearing hard pants.
No, me neither. I have chinos for work, and I'm afraid to put those on to see what kind of damage I've done to my body.
Brad, welcome back.
Thank you.
I sat in your spot.
That's why it feels weird.
It was disgusting.
The vibe is off.
It was, yeah. For me and you both, my friend. Folks, welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Dejected not only because of our failing bodies, but also because of the weekend of Red Wings of hockey we had. One of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
I'm going to do a little bit of sappiness for a second. There was a very cool moment on the first of the Ottawa games where Ken called out on the broadcast that Saturday, April 9th, was going to be Winged Wheel Podcast night at the LCA. And hearing that on the air, and we didn't know, that was coming or anything. My mind immediately flashed back to like the first time we met and all met together in Brad's kitchen. And I was like, there's not a world where I could have imagined what happened there would lead to a partnered event with the Red Wings and Ken calling out our names on the podcast, to the point where I was like, that's not adding up. There's an alternate universe thing going on right now.
Yeah, the Wikipedia page for imposter syndrome is just like one of my bookmarks on my phone.
Anyhow, before we get into the actual podcast, let's talk to you about Winged Wheel Podcast night at the LCA. We are, at time of recording, 6 days away, and even less because it's 8 p.m. and the event starts at 4. So Saturday, April 9th is Winged Wheel Podcast night at the LCA, an event that we're hosting in partnership with the Detroit Red Wings to benefit the Jamie Daniels Foundation. It is going to feature a live recording of the podcast from Little Caesars Arena in the Beer Garden, featuring Ken Daniels and Mickey Redmond. Mickey suggested calling the whole game from the Beer Garden, which we'd be for, but I'm not sure our friends at Bally Sports Detroit would love the technical logistics of that.
If Mick wants it, we can make it happen.
We can make it happen. We're gonna have some snacks out for you guys at the start. The bar will be open for you to buy drinks, and then we have a meet and greet time all before the game, and then during the game. We sold out the gondola. There's a ton of sections in the lower and upper bowl full of Winged Wheel Podcast fans and listeners. And then there's more tickets still available in the lower and upper bowls as well. After the game, there's a post-game meetup after party at Harry's Detroit Bar and Grill, where there's going to be more food, more drinks, more stuff to give away. We're going to have merch, prizes, and things at the pregame and after party. The tickets are discounted. And a portion of the proceeds from every ticket benefits the Jamie Daniels Foundation. So it's a wonderful cause. You guys have already cleared the amount of tickets that we sold for the first event, which I am not kidding when I say we weren't expecting, because we had less time to plan for this one.
And also those games, we still had hope and optimism around the team.
The games mattered more, right? So we are over the moon and just so excited to make it. Doesn't matter what happens for the Red Wings game. We're going to make it a party. And it's going to be fun, and we're going to raise a lot of good money for the Jamie Daniels Foundation, and it's going to be a blast. Speaking of the Jamie Daniels Foundation, in addition to that event, another thing that they have going on is the Comedy Night of Hope on Sunday, May 1st at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle in Royal Oak. Tickets are as low as $50 and include lunch or dinner, depending on the show you go to. The purchase of your ticket goes directly to support a new adolescent substance abuse treatment center that cares for youth regardless of insurance coverage or ability to self-pay. This is a vital lifeline for youth and families in Southeast Michigan. Show features 3 headliner comedians with Craig Shoemaker, Ian Bagg, and Mike Young, and is sponsored by our friends at Priority Waste and Cranks Catering. To purchase tickets and find out more, visit jamiedanielsfoundation.org. So we hope to see you all there. The Detroit Red Wings. A home and home against the Ottawa Senators, where the score was 5-2. Twice.
The Red Wings are nothing if not consistent.
This team is
Bad.
Firmly in Shane Wright territory. They're not moving down the standings because they had too much of a buffer. And this year's standings are a weird tilt of like you are either Florida, Tampa Bay, some team killing it, or you're Arizona Coyotes. The only in between is like the few purgatory teams like in Detroit, Columbus-ish range. But yeah, the Red Wings faced off against the Senators, lost both times.
Hey, it's not like, at least they didn't give up any hat tricks in either of the game.
I know they gave up 1. Did they give up 2?
Yeah, there's another one today.
No, I knew about the one today.
Oh, yeah, there's one on Friday.
Friday is way. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Friday was way too.
Remember
too long ago, right?
Ugh.
Remember the guy that hit Larkin from behind and then Larkin suckered him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he got traded to Ottawa. Guess what he did on Friday?
Oh, no, now this is all coming back.
No, it's just too long ago. It's not cash for Evan.
I got you.
you.
Yeah, so the Friday game, the Red Wings lost 5-2, and it started off with an Austin Watson shorthanded goal against Detroit, and that's how you knew where the night was going.
That one's not usually crossed off on the bingo card. But...
No, that's a pretty rare one, but it's once you cross that one off,
that's when you're feeling good.
You know you're yelling bingo.
Yeah.
Lucas Raymond did score 2 goals, and that was, I think, a big... That was that game's big story, right? Like there's Wallman's, I think it was 97-mile-an-hour slap shot that just squeaked through. Sogard, is it? Yeah, yep. Sogard. First NHL start, so obviously he got the win against Detroit. Wallman squeezed the shot through, and then Raymond finished it, right place, right time. He beat Tim Stützle to the puck.
Yeah, I didn't make a joke about it.
What a bust.
Stützle's good, man.
He's really good.
Watching Stützle these 2 games, I'm like, every prospect who has like 3 seconds of bad hockey immediately gets labeled a bust. And this season, he wasn't lighting the world on fire for portions of it like he was in his rookie year. But watching him, I was like, oh man, this guy, like, you already knew, but he is really good.
He probably goes 2nd or 3rd in a redraft.
You know who else is really good? Lucas Raymond. And then, of course, there was the Matthew Joseph hat trick. Only stopped from being an actual hat trick because Lucas Raymond split it up. But other than that, that was that game.
That Matthew Joseph hat trick was the absolute definitive proof we needed that hockey gods exist and they hate us.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? Larkin and Matthew Joseph were jawing at each other. I think Joseph got like a bad penalty call against him, and Larkin was jawing at him, or they were going at each other. And I was like, I kind of like that this is still happening back and forth. Yeah. And maybe we see something tonight. And it's like, no, it's just Joseph's going to dunk on the Red Wings for 3 goals.
I'm out of adjectives.
Just listen to the podcast 2 podcasts ago.
You can say that. You can say that every podcast.
Run the tape, Ryan. Run the tape.
Honestly,
should we restart this episode and just take the opponent's names and team name out of it
and just create a template?
And Red Wings played very bad against Colorado.
We'll have you do all. You'll be our Siri. You'll do all the reads. We'll get you some beer. We'll put the Masters on, and occasionally we'll have you read a name.
Don't even get me started.
We'll just hold up a sign.
Yeah. Don't even get me started.
Yeah, there's little bits of those games, like other than genuinely like when Ken called out Winged Wheel podcast night, Moritz Seider had a little highlight reel of strength, and Lucas Raymond retook the rookie points lead after that game. Other than that, it just was what it was. The Red Wings dropped a game where their lineup was poor. They had a third period collapse where they gave up everything in the third, despite somewhat good, somewhat bad play before. It's a story we've seen 100 times. They lost to a rookie goalie in his first career start. They gave up the Hattie. That's it.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
Maybe just, outside of... Okay, no. I'm just going to say the question. no context. Are Ottawa further ahead in their... Well, they're not rebuilding. So I can't say that.
Yeah.
Are they closer to competing than Detroit?
No, absolutely not.
No, I'm going to say no. Even though, the Red Wings just lost them twice, Ottawa has some unrealized hurt ahead of them, and that's the way I look at it. So they are cosplaying as a team who thinks that they can compete, and that's it.
Ottawa this year is having the conversations we were having last year, where they can say, we have a ton of good prospects.
But no superstars?
We have finally unloaded a lot of the bad contracts, but exactly, who are the superstars that are going to lead us through? The Red Wings this year, you can call it great drafting, you can call it luck, it's probably both. They got Seider and Raymond, and you can say those are the two guys. With Ottawa, you can argue Stützle could get there, but he's not there yet.
Are they going to go like the Minnesota route? And this is my goldfish brain, where they just are decent, and all of a sudden they get Kaprizov and make a trade for someone of his level, and then maybe just become a wagon.
Is Pierre Dorian the kind of GM to pull that off, though?
Yeah, because
walks too close to corners. I don't think he does.
No, yeah, that's right.
In reality, Ottawa's drafting the last 3 years has been horrendous under Pierre Dorian. Like, let's not forget, they picked Tyler Boucher at 10th overall.
That is true.
Oh my, I forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, they have to sort out their ownership, and I know that's still very raw, but it looks like Melnick's daughters, I don't know. I don't want to pretend to have any kind of information.
I've heard so many rumors on that, it's not even worth speculating.
Yeah. Whatever they do with ownership, this is as a neutral hockey fan, I hope they sort it out soon. It looks like they're going to move towards that downtown arena, which is that it's just good for them and it's good for hockey. And I hope new ownership gets a handle on things soon, because I genuinely believe, and I feel bad ragging on the guy. He's had a tough couple of weeks here, but Pierre Dorian isn't the answer for the future. And the longer the gap in ownership goes, the longer he keeps his job and the longer it takes to fix the issues at hand.
I mean, he just traded a legitimate future asset for an overpaid, terrible at hockey cancer in the dressing room and Travis Hamonic.
We have to give up a third and Hamonic? I can't believe that. And then they're like, wait, no, we're giving you the third.
In the second game, which finished 5-2, this one in Ottawa, the only things that the Red Wings did differently was they lost to Anton Forsberg and not a rookie goalie this time. And Forsberg's having a fantastic season. They gave up another first career hat trick in Josh Norris, that dude is the truth.
Yeah, he had 30 goals. He has 30 goals. That came out of left field for me. I would have not been close on a guess.
The Red Wings have given up. Do you know how many? Do you know the stat, Evan, or can I make you guess?
How many what?
First career NHL hat tricks. Guess how many they've given up this year?
5?
6.
Oh my God.
Nathan Walker, Dylan Strome, Matt Boldy, Mitch Marner, Matthew Joseph, and Josh Norris. 6 first career NHL hat tricks against the Red Wings this season alone.
At least somebody else is having fun.
If I had no memory of this season and you told me, hey, the Red Wings have given up 6 career first NHL hat tricks in this millennium, I would have said that seems like the right number.
Yeah.
Well, when you give up 9 or 10 goals on the regular, odds are the same guy's going to get more than one. Yeah.
They also allowed an NHL record-breaking. They have allowed an NHL record-breaking 26 empty net goals this year. That one I don't think is a function of the Red Wings being bad.
Man, Hronek should be on other teams.
Yeah, he'd be lighting it up.
Yeah, he would.
Someone made a very funny comment about, like, I think it was Bunting's point total, and they were comparing to Raymond or whatever, and someone very seriously said, you're not counting the fact that Bunting has been able to play against the Red Wings a couple times here. And I'm like, oh my God, that is an incredibly good point.
I think I made that joke like during that Leafs game. I'm like, yeah, of course he's going to get a ton of points.
Yeah.
It's unfair to Raymond. He doesn't get to play Detroit.
So that's the gist of the recap. Like, there's nothing else there. Michael Rasmussen, I think, has looked better and better on the wing.
He had a hell of a goal.
And
that was unreal.
He went inside out on Tim Stützle and then ripped it on one of the hottest goalies in the NHL.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Michael Rasmussen on the wing is the most common sense but fruitful decision that they could have made for his development, to the point where you notice
They stopped trying to do the square peg round hole.
Yeah.
Like the first 2 months of the season was, hey, the Red Wings are doing way better than expected, except for this black hole, Michael Rasmussen. And the script has completely flipped.
We don't talk about Michael Rasmussen anymore. And that's exactly what we wanted.
I mean, not for 9th overall pick, but where he was at the beginning of the season, yes.
We are gone.
Yeah.
We are gone.
Yeah.
I actually,
I went from late October, early November going, I don't think this guy has a future in the NHL to, hey, this could be a very good bottom 6 winger.
Michael Rasmussen on the wing belongs on the Red Wings. I will say that in the bottom 6 winger role.
Yeah. Probably on the 4th line if it's a contending team.
Yeah. If we're talking cups, move him down that lineup for sure. But yeah, that's the Red Wings. Today they had, I think, first line Adam Ernie and first line Michael Rasmussen at different points. No Burton playing in Canada because we were in Ottawa. This lineup was never going to be good, of course. This team is still playing uninspired hockey.
Yeah, but you can be a terrible NHL team and still be competitive. Keep games close.
And you could at least build a roster in the hopes of keeping it competitive. I'm sorry, Adam Ernie hasn't had one game this year that could justify him being in the top 6 for any reason.
And there's also period over period. The first 2, the Red Wings, there were points where I'm like, you shouldn't be getting dominated like this. And there are other points where I'm like, hey, if you keep this up for the next 35 remaining minutes, you'll probably eke out the win. And then the third period collapses have started again. And I'm just like, okay, this team is, I think it's embodied right now by Larkin's post-game presser, his post-game comments. He talked about uninspired play. He talked about he's looking around and it doesn't look like anyone's having fun. Like the guys.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I love going to work and just getting dumped on. It's great.
It's because of those chinos that you're wearing.
Yeah, it's those tight ass chinos that I can't do up anymore.
It's the guys aren't buying in, and the guys aren't coming out in there and making the most of what they can. And what they have is very little. Like Larkin is very obviously beat up right now. Like he's playing hurt. Everyone can see that. You have Bertuzzi who can't play in this game because he's in Canada. You have Fabry who's out. Just weird lineup stuff. The defense, Wallman is legitimately still the best left defenseman. Lindstrom is struggling at points here. The roster is that of a bottom 5 team in the NHL, but you still want to see guys come out and have fun and make the most of it. And when your captain comes out and recognizes that you're not, man, is that not?
They need to go to LA and have a beach day or something.
They need the season to end. That's what they need. They need a summer to regroup, reset, and relax.
This team very desperately is they're I don't like none of these guys are doing this, but as a whole, the way this team is playing, they are playing for these last 13 games to get past as quick as possible. They have been through the ringer in terms of injury. They have been through the ringer in terms of schedule. Like Larkin also called out, I think very fairly, their strength of schedule is insanely difficult, the hardest in the league. It's not going to get easier. Like, look who they've played.
Of course it's the hardest in the league. They don't get the benefit of playing the Detroit Red Wings.
They have Boston and Winnipeg.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
We might not get a win this month.
You'd think Ottawa were the wins, but oops.
Like Columbus. No, Columbus is playing decently well.
Columbus needs to be the win, Evan. That needs to be the one.
The only other place I can see, we play New Jersey twice, who are an absolute gong show.
Yeah, one of 2 teams whose goaltenders are worse than the Red Wings. So
they've had 7 goalies this year,
and none of them have been good.
I watched their 6-2 blown lead, and it just didn't stop. And I was like, oh, this seems familiar. Team in red,
friend.
So that's what the Red Wings are. We're not going to sit here and like genuinely not kidding. What Evan said, it's the same stuff as all these previous games. What I want to talk about is there is confusion because the NHL doesn't mandate that you have to publicize these things, which drives me nuts. There was confusion about Jeff Blashill's contract for a long time. It was initially reported as a 2-year straight up deal. We've heard year and then year of team option. It's kind of gone back and forth. We have some feelers out. We're looking to get some confirmation, so we'll keep you posted. But on the Hockey Night in Canada version of 32 Thoughts, they put up a graphic of coaches who are on expiring deals.
And he was on it?
And Jeff Blashill was on it. Expiring or the next year is a team option. They didn't name Jeff Blashill by name like as they were reading out the notable guys, but Jeff Blashill was on there, which leads me to believe that, or at least for the time being, the understanding is Jeff Blashill's contract the next year isn't guaranteed, and it's based on Steve Yzerman and the Detroit Red Wings picking up that team option.
Bad time to go on a massive slide if you're trying to keep your job.
Okay, but this slide has been going on since December.
Oh,
This slide has been going on since 2016, if you really want to.
I knew Brad was going to say that. No, but quite honestly, like, and this is definitely tailing off our conversation after the what was the last catastrophe? The 11-2. Yeah,
That was a week ago.
Oh my God.
That was 7 days ago.
There are so many different arguments being made here that the waters are so muddied, but isolate a few moments, and Larkin's dejected demeanor and comments are one thing, and the team just coming out and playing uninspired hockey. And
Just because it's the end of the season, you want to get it over, doesn't mean you give a half-ass effort.
dude, this is the period of time where a team in the Red Wings position, you're not going to slide down the standings much. You have too much of a buffer. You're certainly not making the playoffs. Go out there, have fun, let it rip, try new shit.
Mark Stahl, first line center, rock star.
I don't even mean like try new stuff with the lineup. I'm not going to ask that of Jeff Blashill. I mean, like, if you're Lucas Raymond, rip every single shot on the power play. If you're Dylan Larkin, like, go nuts out there with dangles that you never otherwise tried. Like, these guys are not inspired playing hockey right now.
The other problem is the other teams are better. And,
Substantially. Yeah. They're not going to let
you can't just do crazy shit.
Ryan Hanna's hot take is simply play better hockey.
Yes, thank you.
So I want to circle this all back into, because you guys covered a bunch of things there, but I think it all circles back to what.
Where are we?
Brad told us we went too far. We're in trouble.
But I think it all circles back to Larkin's comment about we're not having fun, because I'll just ask you guys a quick one-word answer here. Is that the biggest indictment we've had on Jeff Blashill as a coach in his tenure?
Well, it all comes back to the whole, like, all you have to be for the most part as an NHL coach is a motivator.
Stay out of their way. Get the most out of them emotionally. Stay out of their way.
Get them up for games.
Because here's the thing:
I said no because I saw the number 11 on the board. Other
fair.
Game.
You're not wrong.
Could not bear that.
You're not wrong. But because there's multiple ways you can look at this as an indictment. One, it's a coach's job to keep the team loose. It's a coach's job to help the team win. And it's the coach's job to make sure the guys want to be there. I kept, when I read that comment, kept circling back to a comment Scotty Bowman made. And I think it was actually on one of, like, you know how when they used to win Stanley Cups and do stuff like that, they'd have like those videos that they'd like kind of do of the season.
Yeah.
Scotty Bowman had a quote on that video where he said, if you can get them to laugh right before they go on the ice on a big game, you know you're going to win that game because the team's loose. That doesn't happen on these Red Wings. Like you just said, too, circling into, let them go out there and try stuff. Let them have fun. This is the time to let it rip. And you're right. You are 1,000% right. Now is absolutely the time to try things. That's not Jeff Blashill. Jeff Blashill is one of the most conservative coaches in the league on stuff like this. They are going to play chip and chase hockey and these garbage systems that they've been playing for the last 7 years. They're going to play it right up until game 82. Lucas Raymond's not going to get to try a Michigan. Dylan Larkin's not going to be able to try and toe drag and split two defensemen. Like, I mean, he'll try it every once in a while, but it's not something the Red Wings ever do. They're losing. They're not having fun. The coach can't keep them loose, and they're not going to experiment with stuff. Anything valuable anyway. Now coupled with the information of he's on an expiring contract, this has to be it. There is no upside. This is as bad as I've ever seen it.
I want to jump in. I don't want to refute this point, but I just want to clarify. I don't think the issue is that, Raymond isn't allowed to try the Michigan or Larkin isn't allowed to deke, because that's all.
Okay, yeah. It's obviously exaggerations, but
the guys should just emotionally, they should be loose.
Yeah, and when you're loose, you try stuff, and that's not the current Red Wings way. They are not a creative team. Now, a lot of that could be argued. They really only have 4 or 5 guys who can try that stuff anyway. Can you really deploy something super creative if half the guys on the ice can barely stop from tripping over themselves? And yeah, that's a valid point. But maybe this is the time to just load up your 5 best players on the ice and pray the rest of the time. I mean, that's what was working for the Red Wings early in the season. Because even when the Red Wings, we were super optimistic after the first month and a half, because I keep forgetting the season didn't start till mid-October. First month and a half where the Red Wings were in a playoff spot and they were going good. They were really just being carried by 5 guys at that point. The goaltender happened to be one of them, which is obviously the biggest change to this point in the season. Go back to it. Try it. Like, just no more Adam Ernie in the top 6. No more Philip Zadina on the 4th line. Raymond, Bertuzzi, Larkin don't get broken up unless they're in Canada. Moritz Seider plays 29 minutes a night because he's got to rest at the end of this. Like, he's almost out of it. Like,
could he go play in the World Juniors?
I think he could. I think he qualifies. No, Lucas Raymond could. Seider couldn't.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Lucas Raymond could.
Yeah, 1 year, 2 money.
But my point is, Larkin's not wrong. What is the benefit to being a Detroit Red Wing right now?
Wing Wheel podcast night.
That's it. That's the one.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate the shout.
No free ads.
I'll send you your $5 later.
Thanks.
Don't worry.
Nothing changes. The coach can't motivate them to win games. The coach can't keep them loose enough to have fun, at least while they're losing. The coach doesn't try things. I mean, I've tried so hard all year to not be overly critical of Blashill because I've had feedback, hey man, you got to lay off over the last couple of years, and it's fair, and they were right. So I scaled it back. But every damn year, we see the same regression. We see the same problems. We see the same, I'm not going to say group of players, but the same type of player regress. We don't see improvements from the Philip Zadinas and the Philip Peronics and the Dennis Cholowskis and the Andreas Athanasius of the world. We don't. It never happens. We saw the Red Wings, who were full of a bunch of fresh new faces in October and November, who had never played under Jeff Blashill before. We seen them thrive and this team succeed. And then we seen the team regress and fall right back into the same bullshit we have seen for the last 7 years.
So my question is, why has nothing changed?
Well,
at this point, the contract thing makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, but contract be damned. They fire coaches who just sign them with the ink still wet.
Look at the way Yzerman operates. If Yzerman's not going to pick up this option, if that is the actual nature of the contract, would you bet any money on Yzerman being the kind of guy to fire with 14, 15 games left rather than just letting it ride out? He does not want that kerfuffle. No. Like, it's not the way he's going to operate. And I think it's perfectly fair for us to be having this conversation now. I don't feel guilty about that, but it's going to be only relevant after the next 13 games when his contract is up. Like, This is going to be a summertime thing.
And I want to point this out because I talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I'm not going back my word. I agree. Now is not the time to fire Jeff Blashill. There's only a dozen or so games left. It accomplishes nothing at this point. And I can actually argue a benefit to not doing it. When was the last time the Red Wings actually fired a coach?
Dave Lewis?
No, his contract expired.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's been a long time. You have to go back to the early 90s. And that is a great reputation to have around the league to other coaches in the league.
Man, Michael Bunting was only playing his rookie season back then.
Exactly. So if the Red Wings don't, quote unquote, fire Jeff Blashill, and he's the second most or third most tenured coach in the NHL right now.
Second right now.
Right, because Paul Maurice quit.
Yeah.
That carries a great reputation in the coaching world in the NHL. Hey, the Red Wings treat their coaches well. And anybody can argue for the hand Blashill was dealt, which was a shitty one. Do not get me wrong.
He got 2-7 off suit year after year.
Yeah,
after year.
He was dealt the hammer every damn season, but he misplayed it every damn year. He got more leash than any coach in the NHL. That's going to reflect well. So if there are, and I know you're going to lead in this, so I'm not going to name names, but if there are multiple big coaching names on the market this summer.
You've already said my pick.
Yeah. But if there are multiple big coaches on the market and there's a bunch of teams bidding for them, this plays in the Red Wings' favor. Hey, we don't treat our coaches poorly. We give them every benefit of the doubt. And then that might be the deciding factor that brings coach A, B, or C to the Red Wings instead of New Jersey or Nashville or whatever team has a coaching vacancy. Obviously, those teams don't. I'm just picking random teams.
Well, and the Red Wings also have a lot of things going for them. Let's look at New Jersey. Tire fire. Like, absolute disaster.
Well,
they have a nice young core. They have Hughes. They have
I would actually argue they're in damn near the same spot we are.
Yeah, like
identical.
I think that they're going to want to see more out of Dougie Hamilton because that's a pretty mega contract, but
a really promising young core with very little depth and goaltenders who are cratering. The Devils are the Red Wings.
Until I see anything out of the Devils, I've seen nothing.
So we're just talking like this. We can just publish this on Devils forums, and this podcast will be still the same relevancy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
replace Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond with Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt this year.
My point is basically that the Red Wings have a lot of things going for them that would be enticing for a coach to take.
Yeah.
Newish arena. They've got the two top Calder finalists, and they've got an infinite amount of cap space to go big game hunting when the time comes. Like that
historic team,
the most respected
original six
GM,
team,
the most respected GM in the league. Stable ownership. Say what you want about Chris Ilitch, but he has not given any indication that he is going to do anything different with the Red Wings than his
hands
father
off
did.
with the Red Wings.
They have more than 3,000 seat capacity arena.
Yeah, that's true. That's a big advantage.
Yeah, so the Red Wings, for all things, could be a very valuable destination for a coach because
Paul Maurice already lived in Winnipeg, so like, it's not that big of a change.
But yeah, and this coach can come into a team that should be on the upswing, that has underperformed regularly relative to what their roster consists of. This team should have never performed well, but they've still somehow managed to not clear that bar. And all these other circumstances go around it. And then you factor in the history of how they treat their coaches, which is very fair. Yeah, this could be a huge win for the Wings because, you know, if they fire Jeff Blashill right now, that could screw them out of their next coach because that coach could go, you fired your coach with a dozen games left? That's why.
So we're going to give this a little bit of time, and that's because we decided it's okay.
We talk about this every podcast, and it's like so.
No. I'm talking about like the upcoming, like the spin-off to this coaching conversation, and it's definitely we're getting way too ahead of ourselves.
Forget player free agency.
This is something where it's gonna seem stupid, I'm sure, in like 2 weeks. But currently, Bruce, or as everyone loves to call him, Bruce Boudreau, it's not a guarantee that he's going to go back to Vancouver. And there are some weird quirks to his contract, as Elliot Friedman has reported. There's like a team option, but if they don't pick it up,
they're going to pick it up.
They have to. It doesn't seem like it's guaranteed right now. And remember, they got a new GM, and remember, like, if they have a long-term vision, maybe it's not Boudreau. I think it would be insane to not pick it up.
They brought him in, and he turned.
The fans were chanting his name.
Yeah.
You do not let go of a coach where your fans don't generally chant coaches' names unless they're
in a good way.
Yeah. And they were chanting Bruce, there it is, right? Anyhow, if they don't pick him up, let's just do this hypothetical because, you know, Vancouver has been known to do stupid stuff. Previous regime, but whatever. What do the Red Wings need right now more than a coach who can come in, get these guys to buy in, loosen up, enjoy playing hockey, and fire on all cylinders offensively? Because I would love to see this Red Wings team, hey, if they were winning 7-6 or losing 6-5 or 5-4 every night, I'd be okay with that because at least they're putting up 6-5 and 4. The defense is what it is. You know, Bruce Boudreau can't come in and just make the Red Wings defense better. That's on Steve Yzerman and the drafting team. But he can come in and get the most out of this offense, which I think has more firepower than what it's been putting out recently. And
they'd at least be having fun. I know that.
That's the whole tagline to it. Is this 10 steps too far ahead? Yes. Are people groaning listening to this? As usual when I talk, yes. I just think it's a fun hypothetical. And if you're looking at, okay, you guys are running your mouth about, you know, this isn't working with Blashill, what kind of coach would you want? I'm not saying it's the only kind of coach, but a Bruce Boudreau would sure as hell be great.
I want no explanation. Give me your top 2 coaching candidates that could maybe happen. Just top 2. Don't explain it. Just say 2 names.
I'm going to steal both of yours and say Boudreau Maurice.
Yep. Same.
I was going to say Paul Maurice and Ricard Gronberg, but
yeah,
there we go. Gronberg's up there, and I'd also throw in Roger Ronberg.
Yep. I'm not going to marry myself to what, the idea of one coach or another, because I think the world of coaching is so much more broad than people understand, and coaches don't get reported on and clicked and talked about.
There could be some guy who's like an amazing coach in the NCAA that does not get the attention that he deserves and comes in, does an interviews really well, and they're like, this is the guy.
generally, I'm in favor of you hire a coach tailored to the roster you've built. So like when Boudreau went to Washington, it made a ton of sense because they were an offensive powerhouse. So you bring in the guy who's going to maximize that. We don't know what the Red Wings roster is going to look like in 3 years. We don't know if they're going to be a defensive team or an offensive team. This roster is going to be turned over 75% between then. So what I'm looking for in a coach right now is more so the locker room stuff than the X's and O's stuff. And I know every player who's ever played for Boudreau said they'd run through a wall for him. He's very good. He
walks in the room and says, hey, and people laugh.
Yeah. Players love that man. They love playing for that guy. He's the right mix of he can be serious and he'll lay into you, but he keeps it loose. He keeps it fun. His players love him. Paul Maurice is the same way in a very different method.
He's an excellent communicator from what I've been told.
Yeah.
There's no guess at where you're at, what's going on. He lays it all out there and is very excellent at communicating both ways.
Exactly. So I want Maurice and Boudreau for the exact same reason, for very different reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Philip Zadina is used as the poster child.
Don't say that name. I don't want to deal with the comments after.
He's used as the poster child for this, and it has to be taken with a grain of salt that there's no guarantee that Philip Zadina gets, unlocked, so to speak, or fixed, quote unquote. But that's a guy who, has the tools, but for some reason his toolkit never has all of them that he needs on any specific game. Mickey Redmond did an X's and O's on today's game of like exactly what Zadina needed to do differently with his shot to fire home a point blank opportunity that came off of a bad deflection from a defender. And it was literally as simple as you had the time, read that the goalie went down because he knew you were shooting low, and fire it high. Because if you can fire it, in that few square inches right beneath the bar, as NHL shooters should be able to do, you'd score 20 more goals this season than you have. Michael Rasmussen doesn't have more goals than Philip Zadina out of luck. Sorry to say. So what kind of coach can come in and, again, it's not a guarantee, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but using it as an example, come in and just chat with Zadina and say, just rip it. Or do this, like talk to this shooting coach and just whatever. And I'm not saying the Red Wings don't have Zadina with the shooting coach, but to sum it up, to unlock guys who can do that kind of thing and get them to relax and get them to not grip their stick so tightly. He literally did it right now in Vancouver. Look what he did to all of Vancouver's stars who were slumping, struggling. Elias Pettersson.
Yeah. Just look at Elias Pettersson's season splits, and that should be Bruce Boudreau's resume. Just hand that to his next interview.
So,
can we move on? I'm so sick of having the Jeff Blashill conversation.
Oh, well, buddy, I got some news for you.
It's going to have a next game and next game.
Yeah. When the next game the Red Wings give up 5 goals, which will be this week, we'll repeat. And then the next time they give up 5 goals after that, we'll repeat. And
I have to tell Mickey he needs to come with a shitload of stories because we can't do the Jeff Blashill conversation.
No, yeah.
When we're there.
Well, it's good vibes only. And Prashant's not allowed to do stats either.
Yeah, oh my God.
No charts, only vibes.
We're not bringing the mood down.
Messenger of pain.
We had to bribe him with a trip to a brewery.
Yeah.
All right. Before we jump into the next topic here, I did want to tell you that this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast is proudly brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, a sponsor that gives Red Wings fans what we desperately need right now, excitement in the game of hockey. There's so many reasons why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. They are simple to use with great odds on different betting markets, giving you more action every game day. They're tons of fun with unique bet types like same game parlay, and exclusive promotions on the biggest events. And when you win, you get your winnings back safely in as little as 24 hours. Now listen to this. FanDuel is letting you place your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. Just place that bet on any game and FanDuel will refund you up to $1,000 back in site credit if you don't win. No strings attached. If you win, you keep the cash. If you lose that first bet, you get up to $1,000 back in site credit. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app to get started with that risk-free bet and be sure to sign up with promo code WWP so they know the Winged Wheel podcast sent you. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code WWP. You must be 21 and older and present in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, West Virginia, Indiana, Colorado, Iowa, Tennessee, Virginia, or Michigan. First online real money wager only. Site credit is non-withdrawable and expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-GAMBLER in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, or Virginia, Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789, 1-800-GAMBLER.net West Virginia, or call 1-800-270-7117 in Michigan. What do you want to do first? The prospect profile, or do we want to talk about skilling it up?
Oh, God. You didn't tell me we were going to talk about that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have come if I'd known.
That's the way the world works, man. It's our podcast. We can do what we want.
Prospect profile it is.
All right. Today's prospect profile is position and need for the Red Wings. A left-handed defenseman from the Seattle Thunderbirds, Kevin Korchinski, who's been moving up our charts recently.
Yeah, I thought I was on to something after the top prospects game, and then after that game, everybody's like, "Oh no, he's really good." Dang, I'm like, "Okay, cool."
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
We're slowly reaching the speed limit here.
Thanks, guys. But yeah, Kevin Korchinski, as we alluded, really caught our eye at the top prospects game, and that was kind of what put him on our radar because he was one of the guys in that game who wasn't talked about enough that performed, or talked about a lot going into it, that performed really, really well. So obviously started my deeper dive on him afterwards. And this isn't a fluke. He's been a riser all season. His mobility, his skating, his puck control, his edge work, his decision making with the puck is fantastic. All those tools you want in a quote unquote modern day defenseman, Korchinski checks that box. His power play work is awesome. His transitions are awesome. Defensively, he's a work in progress, but again, with almost every 17-year-old defenseman, I do not hold that against him. And he's one of the younger players in this draft too. I think he's like a June or a July birthday as well. June birthday. So he's got a lot of room to fill out still and improve. And, under a good coach can improve defense. But anyways, not circling back to that before Evan has a stroke.
It's too late.
He actually has a knife under the table. He stabbed me twice.
Korchinski's one of my favorites in the draft, just for the exact reason I mentioned earlier, that he has just about everything you want in the modern day defenseman.
Noticing Kevin Korchinski more is a little upsetting because I don't think he goes in the range. And I know this is like deja vu after Moritz Seider
with the 6th overall pick.
Yeah.
Detroit Red Wings select from the Seattle Thunderbirds.
So I right now, I think he's a defenseman, so I wouldn't be surprised if he cracks the top 10, but I'd put him in the teens maybe with the way his trajectory is going.
He's closer to being near 20 than 30.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He's closer to being the Red Wings' first-round pick than the second-round pick.
Yes, let's put it that way. But let's talk about him as a defenseman. Everything Brad just laid out is exactly right, and I think the questions about his defense, they're not as scary as they are for other defensive prospects, because if you look at him, he's like 6'2", 6'3".
He's not Brendan Smith.
And he's 6'2", 6'3", and he moves really well. He's a really mobile player, and he does well with the puck on his stick, and his footwork, like you said, is fantastic. So even with the puck not on his stick, he has the tools where you don't have to be this big booming defenseman, but you can put yourself in the right spot to defend those plays. And that's something that defensemen can improve over time.
If you've got the footwork and the athleticism, you can teach them defense.
100%. And I hate being reductive about the position of defense, because I don't know if you know this.
What?
It's the easiest position in sports.
Yes.
Sit back in the old lazy boy and make outlet passes.
No, in all seriousness, though, there are certain things that you want in the modern NHL from a defenseman that are teachable and that aren't. And I think the positioning and stuff that can come with the tools that you can't teach, which are the athleticism and the really, really good footwork and mobility. Some of that is teachable, but I digress. That's something, it all just applies to Kevin Korchinski in a way where you're like, this isn't as scary. The deficits aren't scary for me. So I see a guy who's on the left side. I see a guy who can move the puck up and down the ice. And I see a guy who has the tools where I'm like, he's not going to be an anchor on this blue line in either zone. That's someone for me who, I don't know how this draft is going to shake out, but if the Red Wings walk away from it with Kevin Korchinski, I'd be thrilled.
Yeah, so the one thing that I think gets overlooked when talking about defense a lot is, to me, it's what made me notice Korchinski first. There's two ways you defend in your own zone, when you have the puck and when you don't. And when you don't is where his improvements can come. But as we've seen with the Red Wings this year, defense can still go to hell when they have the puck.
He really hates us.
So how many times have we seen a puck in the Red Wings zone on a Red Wings defenseman's stick, and then less than 10 seconds later, it's in the Red Wings net? Korchinski's reads on his outlets are phenomenal. Not just that he makes the right pass, it's how quickly he processes what's going on in front of him and makes the right play. Whether that's just a quick bump to the winger on the wall, off the glass and out because everybody's covered, or by taking a couple steps and hitting a guy in stride for, an odd man rush. Like, he has that down pat in his game. And that is, I would argue, the biggest strength of his game. So when we say his defensive game needs work, it's not all of his defensive game. And it's not that he has no value as a defenseman. He has a lot of value in the defensive end. It's just not in the ways you traditionally think of a defenseman.
He just, to me, is a guy who's really raw, right? And that's, again, it's not a bad thing. There's a ton.
I wouldn't even say raw. I would only say raw in a couple aspects.
Yeah. He has a ton of individual skill, and the things he's able to do based on what you just mentioned, like, you're already seeing the fruits of that. It's not that it's, all tools, no toolbox, or whatever the analogy that we're going with right now is. He's able to do a lot on the ice, and just by refining those tools and getting them to be a little bit more productive in the defensive zone, and maybe making a better read or doing a little better with play selection, or knowing when to, jump up in the rush or really walk the line, or whatever it might be, the talent is there for it. And that individual skill, that talent, that the raw, unrefined, but still like glimmery part of him, he's going to be an attractive prospect. I see him shooting up the board in my mind. I think he goes closer to 10 than 20.
I do too. I think he's going to slip in around that 15 area. There's too much talent to let him slide, on top of the fact that we've seen the type of premium defensemen have been getting in the draft lately, especially coupled with the dumb contracts they've been getting in the NHL. All of a sudden, those 3 years of an ELC have that much more value.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think he falls very far.
Oh, this one's going to get clipped. This one's going to get clipped by ice hockey gifts, and we're going to end up looking stupid.
Why? We're complimentary.
No, it's just because we're saying it's definitely not going to it's definitely not going to go high enough for Detroit or low enough for Detroit, and it's going to be one or the other.
Yeah, the Red Wings get him at pick 41, and then it's like, okay, thanks.
Yeah. Ends up being a bust.
Yeah, cool, awesome.
No, genuinely, Korchinski's a guy who we've had the privilege to watch and wow us in person, and the more we look into it, the more it's like, yeah, this guy might be something.
Yeah, that game wasn't an outlier.
All right, the conversation that I know you're gonna love having.
It's 2022. I just want that on the record before we start this.
The Anaheim Ducks dunked on the Arizona Coyotes. It was a game where Trevor Zegras, the freak, hit another Michigan goal, did it around Sonny Milano. And I saw some people detracting from Zegras for that. I think that made it harder.
Yeah, that definitely made it harder. That 1,000% made it harder.
He tried an in between the legs shot first and then picked it up for the Michigan. And is the shot selection, or could he have done that less skilled? For sure. Of course.
No, he couldn't have. I will absolutely argue he couldn't. Those were the best two plays he could have made in the position he was in for both of them.
Anyhow, it's all positive. What a freak of nature. Great goal. The Anaheim Ducks are up 5-0. There's 2 minutes left. Zegras goes in for a puck that he says is loose. Arizona thinks it's not. He digs at the goalie, takes a cross check. There's a big scrum. Troy Terry comes in, and Jay Beagle beats the ever-loving hell out of him, to the point where you see his eye, Troy Terry's eye and face, and you're like, Terry ended up motionless on the ice. Beagle just went off, and Terry's face got messed up. So part of this was the commentary from the Coyotes broadcast, where Tyson Nash talked about, that's the problem with these young players. You want to embarrass guys, you want to skill it up, you better be prepared to get punched in the mouth. Tyson Nash is a meathead. Stupid thing to say. Just dumb, just dissociated from what NHL hockey is. Just completely some weird homerism take where he was pissed at the team he was calling for, whatever. Jay Beagle, I'm sorry. I know there's going to be defenders of this. Jay Beagle is also an idiot for taking it that far. Troy Terry's gloves aren't off. You very obviously are feeling that you're connecting multiple times. I'm not convinced that Troy Terry would have fallen sooner had Jay Beagle not been holding him up, right? Like, or whatever that clip was, like Beagle took it too far against Troy Terry. This is shades of what happened with the Rangers and the Caps with Tom Wilson. And I think Beagle's an idiot too for doing what he did. That said, there, in my mind, and this might be unpopular, acknowledging that Tyson Nash is an idiot, but he had no bearing on that moment, and acknowledging that Jay Beagle, after Troy Terry, wanted it, like Troy Terry came in like looking for the scrum, acknowledging that I think he took it too far. I don't think this was about, or if it was about skill, that's not what that moment was about. Trevor Zegras teed off in a post-game interview, which I loved because it had personality and it was real and he just spoke his mind, which I think hockey needs more of. He teed off. He's like, there's 5-0 game with 2 minutes left. And my immediate thought is, all right, it's a 5-0 game with 2 minutes left. What are you taking a dig at a goalie for? You have to be prepared. That's why you took the cross check. And admittedly, he did say he was okay with the cross check. Like he understood that happened. But that whole thing happens because they're going that hard in a 5-0 hockey game. I think everyone here is an idiot. That's my take on it. I think everyone's dumb.
Yeah, that is ultimately what it comes down to. Now, I will argue that Jay Beagle and Tyson Nash are more dumb than the Ducks players, but the Ducks players are still dumb because, yeah, if we want to go by Tyson Nash's old school bro hockey code that is stupid as hell, but definitely exists and hockey players live and die by it no matter how stupid they know it is. Yeah, 5-0 game. Code says you don't dig at the goalie. When a guy gets cross-checked, well, code says your teammates got to come in and help. Troy Terry comes in and helps. Code says when you come in and help, expect retaliation. Code says, though, when a guy's done with a fight, he's done with the fight.
Yeah.
You don't keep going. So Zegras shouldn't have poked at the goalie. I'm happy he acknowledged that the cross-check he received immediately after was fair, because it was. That was the appropriate response in that circumstance. Terry shouldn't have come in if he didn't expect something to happen. Now, what happened went way overboard.
Yeah.
As soon as Beagle landed 1 or 2 shots and realized he was getting 0 resistance, anybody with any character or respect in hockey stops there. 1 or 2 shots is more than enough of a message. I guarantee Troy Terry doesn't do that again when he's playing the Coyotes if he gets punched in the mouth once. The fact that he landed so many, kept going, and Troy Terry ended up like that, of course he didn't get suspended because the NHL's a farce. But yeah, you said it right. Everybody here is wrong and stupid. Every one of them.
Over to our resident meathead boomer. Evan, what's your take?
If it's the playoffs and, it's a 2-1 game, 1-goal game kind of thing, and, you take a shot at the goalie trying to think that there's a loose puck, like, yeah, that's one thing. But when it's 5-0 with a couple minutes left, maybe let that one go unless, you've got a $500K bonus sitting on the line or something. Who knows? Maybe he does. I don't know. But as soon as you take that extra shot, it's get ready for the Thunderdome because everybody's coming in. Guys come in for less.
Yeah.
So none of that really seemed all that controversial to me. And then the scrum starts. Everybody finds a dance partner. It's the same old thing that we see time and time again. I don't know if Troy Terry and Jay Beagle are a mismatch in terms of physical ability.
Evidently.
Yeah, evidently. But yeah, I don't know. You just don't just pound the limit. I mean, the wires clearly crossed on everyone involved, but the wires just got ripped out on Jay Beagle and he just went insane. And that's the type of shit you suspend people for.
And they didn't, because of course they didn't.
They set the precedent with Tom Wilson.
Yeah.
But that's not an apples to apples thing.
It's no, it's not. I don't want to call it the same situation. It's not. It's
Panarin jumped on the back of Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson powerbombed him through the floor.
I actually don't know which side of the argument you're putting this on, but I do want to hear you tell the story. You're a poet when it comes to hockey fights.
Yeah, if you get a bunch of really good licks on someone in a fight and they aren't throwing hands back and you don't feel the resistance of someone grabbing your jersey, you probably let them go. But that's in a very controlled fight situation when you're just mad at someone. Jay Beagle just lost his goddamn mind.
Yeah, he saw red.
And that's when you suspend people.
Because of the lack of control. Okay, so I'm gonna.
What do you by any chance know what the penalties were? This is a question. I don't know what
this was late in the game. They probably got unsportsmanlike just to
and
get
just
them
tossed
into the
them.
room.
Yeah. And Beagle, we don't even know if he's going to get another contract. These might be the last 12 or 13 or 14 games of his career.
Oh, have you seen him play? These are probably the last 12 or 13 games of his career.
Oh, no. Some GM in the league watched that and says, I want that guy on my team. I would almost bet
the New York Rangers, Tom Wilson insurance.
I'm going to say something which is going to piss people off and I'm going to receive angry messages over. And I don't even necessarily believe that this is right. But what I believe to be the truth about today's NHL is that Trevor Zegras is he's a confident guy. He goes out, he tries the between the legs shot, he hits the Michigan, he celebrates, he taunts, he flaunts, whatever. Full of personality, pisses the other team the hell off.
That would drive me absolutely goddamn insane playing against him.
And I'm not saying what Beagle did to Terry had anything to do with that, but just because we're talking about it, I think what Trevor Zegras might want to learn, and come at me here for this if I'm wrong.
I'm ready.
What Trevor Zegras might want to learn is if that's what you're doing, if that's what you're going to do, I'm all for it. I love it. 100%. I'm not even being ironic here, but you have to learn the where and when afterwards. Because if you're doing that and then you're up 5-0 in a game, you have to understand that you digging at a goalie up 5-0 with 2 minutes left is different than Adam Ernie doing it up 5-0 with 2 minutes left. A player on the opposing team is more liable to just go full Neanderthal, wires ripped out, like Evan said, and completely see red and rage out if you've spent the whole game waving the red flag at the bull, right? Maybe that's just too much hockey meathead, and I don't believe that that's the way the NHL should be.
I'm gonna scale it back, but give the same thing you're trying to say is just Trevor Zegras should keep doing exactly what he's doing, but oh man, this is gonna sound so dumb.
Now we open up the boomer window.
Yeah.
But and I've argued against this so many times that I don't even know if I believe what I'm about to say, but you kind of just have to back off when it's a 5-0 game with 2 minutes left.
You do.
And not back off in terms of you have a breakaway and you dump it in the corner, or you have a power play so you don't shoot. It's you just don't take a shot at a goalie. It's not, I'm not saying take your foot off the gas. I'm just saying don't taking those extra shots is what's going to put you into those situations. And
I'm fully with you. And I acknowledge that it's messed up because it does not excuse Jay Beagle's disproportionate response. And it's literally victim blaming, but it's, you have to understand the climate and the temperature of the game. And again, don't take it.
He definitely does.
He does. No one's that confident in showboats without knowing what it's doing to the other team. It's part of the strategy.
He said it was fair game when he got cross-checked after he knew it. He knew it.
He was ready for the Thunderdome.
So where I'm going to agree with you, but for a little bit of different context is, I don't think it's because of the flash and all that. It probably does piss the other team off, but
that's not his problem.
Exactly. I'll get to that. But he is one of the best players on the Ducks. So I think if one of the better players on a team does something like that, every team in the world is going to take license to take a shot on him. If that's Dylan Larkin, who doesn't do the flashy stuff that Zegras does the same thing.
Good players taking shots is not a new thing.
No.
That's going to happen. He knows that. He's played hockey. Again, all meathead hockey players know the meathead bro code. I'm not saying I agree with every aspect of the code, but I know the code very damn well. And he knows that. There's no way he doesn't know that. But this is the irony of hockey culture that I love, because you're not wrong that that's going to happen, Ryan. But the stupidity of it is hockey is the sport that flaunts the bravado, the macho aspect of it. Look how tough and strong our players are. Oh, I'm going to kill that guy because he hurt my feelings. He embarrassed me on the ice. This is what we're talking about. This is how stupid this sport is.
Bunch of snowflakes.
Yeah,
Literally.
Christ.
Like, that is what we're talking about. Oh, he scored a really fancy goal. I'm going to try and injure him for the rest of the season is something that is going to keep happening. And
well, someone's got to beat the wheels off Jay Beagle. If I could think of any good players on Arizona, I would say beat the wheels off them.
The only reason I'm not going harder on Jay Beagle here, and I'm talking about
he's already had his own career.
His career's over. Trevor Zegras has his whole career ahead of him. Jay Beagle's irrelevant. And it's actually infuriating because if he doesn't sign another contract, you're like, wow, that guy did not get his just desserts, and that pisses you off.
Well, I mean, that kind of is it. But no, but this is like getting back to Tyson Nash's stupid comment about skilling it up. You're going to argue Zegras pulling it through the legs and a Michigan is bad for the game? The puck went in the goddamn net. It worked. It was the right play because the puck ended up in the net, which is the point of the game of hockey.
And how many kids or how many hockey players do you see now trying to do it? It has fundamentally changed how people approach going behind the net.
And the more people that can do it, the fundamentally it's going to change how you have to defend in the defensive zone, which is going to open up more opportunities because now you can't just leave the guy behind the net, which is going to open up someone in front of the net. Like
to stick the goalie and then beat the fuck up.
The penalties, for what it's worth, were Jay Beagle fighting, Troy Terry roughing, Jay Beagle cross-checking, Jay Beagle game misconduct, Phil Kessel misconduct. So Beagle got more out of this. No, no supplementary discipline for Beagle, obviously. And I want to just recognize one more thing. There's a fine line between what Tyson Nash said on the broadcast, which was essentially justifying. He was saying all that in the context of Jay Beagle.
It was literally a terrible take that everyone heard.
After he was talking about Beagle beating Troy Terry senseless. Like, I'm not exaggerating. And that's the context he used it in. And I fully disagree with that. And his words of, if you're going to skill it up, you have to expect to be punched in the mouth. It's a stupid comment. I don't even understand what that means. Because that's like never happened.
Because Tyson Nash had a very long career of being a very bad NHL hockey player and has had a very long career of being a very bad NHL commentator.
So I understand that the take that you and I had, Evan, might sound like it's agreeing, and I can't emphasize enough. It's not about that this is Trevor Zegras' fault because he hit those moves. Just talking about, again, the dig at the goalie after a full game of doing that.
You know, it's a 2-1 game. You're fighting for your playoff life or whatever. That's completely different.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with a guy being skilled so you're going to get punched in the mouth. That's stupid and I hate it. And any player who does that deserves to get tuned up afterwards. Yeah. Like any player who punches someone in the mouth just because they're good. Like it's dumb.
My argument would be if you are upset about players scoring the Michigan on you and that hurts your feelings because you're a little baby, don't let him do that. Yeah. Stop him. That is how you don't have to deal with the Michigan. Be good enough to stop him. And if you're not, well, then that's your problem.
Yeah. Well, we made a meal of that conversation, so I'm sure there's going to be
at the end,
the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how I could unbury myself, but I definitely do not agree with Jay Beagle beating someone while they are lacking the ability to defend themselves. But I also agree that, you know, if Trevor Zegras is gonna take one extra shot, there's gonna be some wrestling.
Here, Evan, I'll dig you out of your hole. It's understanding how.
No, I'm okay down here now.
It's understanding how the hockey bro code works without necessarily agreeing with the code.
Sure.
All right, why don't we jump into overtime here?
You know me, I love a good. I love a little dance.
At Hockeytown Evan.
You can forward all complaints to wingwellpodcast@gmail.com.
Okay, we're going to get into overtime here. We're going to start with our Patreon supporters, who are the reason why we can do things like have Winged Wheel Podcast Night in the LCA, fundraise for the Jamie Daniels Foundation, record this podcast twice a week.
Hey, if anyone wants to golf with me on Friday, let me know.
Yeah, that's true. Evan surprisingly doesn't have a golf buddy.
Well, not in America.
It's a big country. You don't have one friend?
No, apparently.
At Hockeytown Evan, let him know if you want to golf with him on Friday.
You've got several hundred of them coming up this week.
I'm trying.
Patreon.com/wingedwheel podcast if you want to support the show and get in on the Discord. The Discord's been
Chaos.
a blast.
The best
Yeah.
organized chaos.
We're going to start with the user CNods, who says, it's preseason. Rank these statements by how much you'd believe them back in September. Least believable to most. Raymond has over 50 points leading rookies. Seider is leading the wings in assists, and Rasmussen has more goals than Zadina.
Rasmussen's the least believable one.
That's the most believable for me coming into the season.
No, that would be the least for me. Then I'll go Raymond and Seider.
I will say the most unbelievable is Seider leading the wings and assists. Raymond having over 50 points in the middle, and then Rasmussen more goals than Zadina being the most believable just because Zadina, wasn't a guarantee that he was going to have a good season, and here we are.
Yeah, but remember where Rasmussen was at before the season?
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know.
A lot of my reasoning behind it isn't necessarily because of the players involved. Like, my believing Seider would lead the team in assists, it wasn't necessarily for my unbridled optimism about Seider going into the season, which I did have a lot of. It was my overall pessimism about the rest of the roster.
Yeah, I don't find the Seider one that surprising because who else is going to play on the power play?
Okay. Jacob Charlip has a really good question. This is actually one that I play out in my head quite a bit. I've been having this debate all week with my friends and I need it settled. Prime Fedorov versus Prime Datsuk. Who are you taking to start your team? I'd say I'm talking razor thin margins.
Prime, and we're talking prime.
At the absolute top of their games, it's kind of got to be Fedorov.
Fedorov's got a heart, man. There was a season he was the best player in the world.
I think there was a point in time where Pavel Datsuk was the best player in the world. But
I don't think there was. I think he was in the conversation. I think he was right there. But he was, let's not forget, Prime Datsuk was up against Prime Crosby, Prime Ovechkin.
There may have been
he was right there though.
Not the counting stats that the most people would go by, but I think a lot of the polls of the NHL would have been like, this guy's an absolute freak.
Like, Fedorov won an MVP trophy in the midst of late prime Gretzky and Lemieux. I mean,
that's kind of like, I'm not saying none of this diminishes Datsuk. And had they been in the same era, I mean, we'd be talking more cups for Detroit here. That's how good both of them were.
Yeah.
I will fight to the death that Datsuk at one point or a couple points, and Crosby was ramping up. And there was a point where Crosby really hit his peak, and I think he took over. But where Datsuk did surpass Crosby as best overall. But yeah, with Fedorov, it's
like Datsuk.
People are already forgetting what Fedorov did, and it's
Datsuk absolutely could have eclipsed Crosby for a season or two. Fedorov eclipsed Gretzky for a season. I know, it was like Gretzky's 12th or 13th or 14th season or something like that. But Gretzky was still putting up 100 and however many ridiculous amount of points at that point too. Still.
Yeah, it's a tough one though.
Yeah, it's a real tough problem to have.
You can't go wrong. If this was like a fancy world and you were doing this, you could not go wrong either way.
If you take Fedorov off those Red Wings teams and replace him with Datsuk, they don't win any less cups.
Yeah, they're still just as good. They just play a little differently. Okay. And I'm Devin. It says, afternoon squad leaders. Based off of the salary cap discussion started on the previous episode, I have a proposition.
I woke up the Discord with that conversation.
Yeah, you did. There's a lot of scrolling.
Yeah, I didn't read it all, but there were some well-formed points I could tell.
Evan, we know you can't read.
I know.
This man lives off text-to-speech. Tradable salary cap. For ease of use of discussion, the salary cap is 80 mil. The cap floor is 60 mil. Teams have the option to trade usable salary cap. However, in order for a team to trade their cap, they must have 70 mil on the active cap being used. Retained contracts and buyouts don't count toward the cap floor. Cap trade floor. This would force teams who want to trade their cap space to have active contracts and field usable teams. GMs get to determine how much cap space is worth.
Man, at that point, just make it a soft cap with a luxury tax. Way cleaner.
I don't. if we're doing wild ideas, it's not the most insane. And I know you might know this, but I don't think the NHL will ever get to that point.
No, because the NHL is all about parity, and as the salary cap world has evolved, there's been less parity, as this season being the shining example of it, because teams have learned to maximize value and cap space going both ways, which is just further spreading the extremes. Like, you get the Ottawas and the Arizonas of the world who are finding ways just to get to the cap floor without having to pay actual money.
Coyotes legend, Shea Weber.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get all these like LTIR, like loopholes and salary retentions and trades with third party to retain even more salary to ramp up the Tampas and the Floridas and the Vegases of the world. So I think adding more ways to have cap flexibility is going to further reduce the parity in the NHL, which I don't think the NHL loves how much it's already been spread.
The players would also never agree to tradable salary cap. I don't think they would.
I could see them doing it because that might inflate some contracts. I can see the players being okay with
it. I don't know if we may have talked about this, but how do you feel about like designated? Each team has 2 designated player slots, and they can sign the 2 players to anything doesn't count against the cap.
I've heard another variation of it that I really like. It's 1 player, not 2. You get 1 player who doesn't count against your cap, but you had to have drafted and developed him. You could not have signed him as a free agent or acquired him via trade. It is your reward for properly developing this player. So because like hypothetically, Edmonton got lucky, got 1 overall. They drafted, they developed McDavid. They can pay him whatever he wanted. Doesn't cap.
They had to do a lot of work there.
But you're only allowed 1 per season, which means you can't get a discounted Draisaitl ever because McDavid's
1
taking
per
up that
season's
slot.
a lot, right?
You only get 1 per season, and
like one contract can be active in that slot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
So-
thought you meant like 1 additional. I was like, holy shit.
Let's say hypothetically, not obviously going to happen, but let's say hypothetically next season, Edmonton wins the draft lottery again. They get Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard ends up being better than McDavid.
Don't say that.
They can only have one of them as a freebie because that's all the slot. And they could rotate them year by year if they wanted. It doesn't matter who. You get 1. So this year, the way the Red Wings are constructed, Larkin wouldn't count against their salary cap. And, if Moritz Seider gets a raise that's bigger than Larkin's, he doesn't count because he's drafted and developed. But like the New York Rangers, for example, they cannot hide Trouba or Zibanejad or Panarin because they were all trades and free agents, right? So
that's very interesting.
Yeah, that was kind of I shouldn't say mine, the idea I heard to give teams a little more cap flexibility, and that was the one I liked the most. It's kind of like that franchise tag, but you had to have done the legwork on that player.
I like it.
MVP 96 says, I was debating Mantha trade offers with Prashanth, and Prashanth had a tweet from a while ago, I think it was last year, and it was a hypothetical trade. So we all know how the Mantha trade actually went down with Verona, ended up being Kosa, etc. So the proposed from Prashanth, and this is from a year ago, was Mantha and Edmonton's second in 2021, so this is previous, in exchange for Shane Gostisbehere, Philadelphia's 2022 first, and a 2021 third. So that 2022 first is this year's draft, and that's a lottery pick. So what do you prefer? The return the Red Wings got with Verona
and Kosa?
And everything that they turned that into? Or do you want that lottery pick and Gostisbehere in the third?
It's the Verona and Kosa. I don't even think it's close because the Red Wings also gave up a 2nd-round pick in Prashanth's hypothetical.
Is that where it moves for you? Like, say that.
No, God, pick. No. This lottery pick, let's assume it doesn't win the draft lottery because that's unlikely. But let's say it's a high pick. Let's say
pick 5.
Okay. You're a chick. We'll say you're a check. Kosa or Verona, would you trade Kosa and Verona straight up for your check right now? Because that's what it comes down to me. And to me, the answer is obviously no. Because if you're not committed to Verona long term, you could probably turn him around for a 1st-round pick. And Kosa still looks like a prime candidate to be your franchise goalie.
That's interesting. Maybe we'll talk to Prashanth about that when next time he's on.
But then again, it's not an apples to apples because let's not forget the Red Wings gave up assets to use Washington's pick to trade up to get Kosa. So when you go down the whole rabbit hole, that's kind of the 2nd-round picks there might actually balance out. So yeah.
A couple more here. Misconduct Racing says, thoughts on an experiment of putting Raymond at center?
No, absolutely not. His game's not tailored well for it.
I think you could try at some point.
I would.
Not right now. I wouldn't do it right now. But in a bind, I would like to try it in a season or two. Why not?
His game's not very well suited for it. He's a facilitator. He's not a burner. And he's not a super physical player. His assets are maximized on the wing.
I think you undersell his physicality, or at least his nose for.
He's willing to engage, but he's not bad at it, but it's not a strength.
I will not listen to this Lucas Raymond slander.
No, right?
I'm just saying.
I like Brad better when he wasn't here.
You should slap him in the face.
I can't. I'd hit my mic, I'd knock over my water, I'd hit his mic, that'd be a mess to edit in audio.
My rookie's name out of your mouth.
Ryan, of course, ignores what would happen to him after.
Yes, I would. Of course I ignore that. I have no ambition of fighting parents ever.
No.
Anyone who's known the love and fear for a child's well-being, like, I don't want to engage in physical altercation with that person. They're deranged. This he's an insane person.
That was even before children.
That was even before children. That Brad would Jay Beagle me, but be laughing while he was doing it because he would just unleash all of his pent up energy. Brad has the amount of potential energy, and I'm talking like in terms of chemistry and physics, as an atom does before you split it. This dude is chaotic. Evan and I like wear hockey pads when he comes in the house just to make sure he doesn't hurt us with all the energy he bursts into the room with. No, I'm not fighting you, but I will slap you someday. Actually, that's what we have Jen for.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Reddit thread, something messed up. It didn't post in time. I'm sorry. We had some extra questions from last week. I will make sure that the Reddit thread gets seen, and then on the midweek episode where it's usually Patreon exclusive, I'll take a look. We'll take some extra Reddit questions. So that's on me, but yell at Evan for that, just because it's fun to yell at Evan. Rooster18 says, what's the most embarrassing loss this season? Pittsburgh, Arizona, or the Toronto 10-7, or maybe the Kings shutout in January, or maybe the Habs or Bruins blowouts in November.
God, the fact that we lost 11-2 a week ago, and that's not like an obvious answer.
That is the most goals against in the Cap era.
It's got to be the Coyotes one, though, right?
That's also wait. Was it most embarrassing?
Yeah,
it's got to be the Coyotes because they're like Pittsburgh's a really damn good team. It's not surprising they blow out the Red Wings by that much. Yeah, obviously that's bad, but 9-2 to a team that is trying to run the tank to end all tanks. Like, good God, Jay Beagle was their first line center for that game, I think.
And then an additional or a similar question. O Gardens says, what was the turning point in these last 2 months?
Time?
Because it wasn't 2 months ago. Because this didn't start 2 months ago.
No. What was the turning point?
Turning point of what?
And you're saying there wasn't.
This team's been garbage since the first week of December. So whatever happened that week, that was the turning point.
Festivus.
You want to know what it was for me? Festivus. No, for me, it was Toronto. The first Toronto. And they only lost by 3 that game, and they almost completed the comeback. Was that the
one where they had Mitch Marner got the absolute gift that turned his entire season around?
Yeah, I think the
timeline split at that, and from that heroic giveaway, the timelines have split.
The Red Wings.
Oh.
I thought Hronek also gave up a whopper.
The gift to Mitch Marner in Toronto. That one
was that Nick
Detroit.
Leddy?
Oh my God, how many were there? Because I'm thinking of the Leddy one.
Anyways, we'll get someone pull it up and tell us why we're wrong. But still, the Red Wings at one point were down 7-2, and Toronto just kept scoring and scoring and scoring. And yeah, Toronto'd it, and they let Detroit almost come back and win that game. But that to me was, we knew that the Red Wings were overperforming all season, and January and February weren't going well. Most of December weren't going well already. But we didn't know that the Red Wings had 10.
They could give up 10?
We didn't know they could give up 10. And for me, that was a wound that just never closed back up.
So if you want to kind of I don't remember these games in particular very well, but just going back through the schedule, you can almost pinpoint it. So the Red Wings.
The exact moment his heart rips in two.
Old Ralph Wiggum.
So the Red Wings ended November and went into December on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 game winning streak. And then in the same week, lost 5-2 to Nashville, 6-2 to St. Louis, and 7-3 to Colorado.
Damn Roman Josi and his good looks.
There you go.
Yeah, honestly.
There was the week it all went to shit.
It was really a matter of time. Do you honestly think this team could have kept up all year?
No.
Okay.
Of course not.
Okay.
Let's say even the Red Wings got the same goaltending they got from Nedeljkovic and Greiss at the first third of the season all year. I still don't think they're a playoff team.
Oh God, no. But you know what? We got a little bit of good and a little bit of bad, a lot of bad this year. But we got a good sample into the future. Hopefully, God, I hope.
You did. We got enough into the future. I'm trying to find that clip to see who had the giveaway. You got enough into the future, but it was still bad. Anyhow, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast to record the Patreon exclusive overtime. Again, Reddit users, sorry. We'll get more of your questions for the midweek episode. Folks, Winged Wheel podcast night tickets at the LCA. We've been adding more for you to get. More tickets are available, and be sure to check out Comedy Night in benefit of the Jamie Daniels Foundation as well. I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in, everyone who supports the show, Patreon users, listeners, everyone who's given us ratings on iTunes and Spotify, anywhere else. The sponsors of this podcast, the FanDuel Sportsbook, and our name-level Patreon supporters, Arjun Shanker, Yves Bartels on behalf of the Sarah Grand Foundation, Kyle Karagitz, Nick Perks, Brett Bailey, Terry Driver of the number 69 Crying Ryan Hanna's Banana Slam and Jamathon, Matthew M. Rice, Billy Howell, Boo Slob Singer, Brandon M., Brian Johnson, Carl Brutanen Nanolewski, Chimmy, Citizen High Five, CJ Sully, Craig Kibble, Daniel Garcia, Derek Enstam, DJ Denton, Give Blood Fight Probert, Given Good D with Brian Hanna, Greach, Han Ali, Hassam Al-Qassem, Jay Gollum, Jacob Turner, Justin and the Angry Mob, Caitlin Wood, King Tone, Kyle Hashman, Marcus, Matt McKay, R.A., Ryan Hubbard, Scott Martin, Stay Fresh Cheese Bags, Zach Spring, Andrew Bohan, Sam Bankson, Adam I Wish I Could Finish Like Ernie, Antonio Gracias, Babe Landeskog, Ben Barron, Connor Leighton, Dave W., Eric Sinkowski, Evans Bingo Card, James Laporte, Jeremiah Dobo, Jeremy Brocker, John Evans, Josh Yelton, Kevin McCracken, Quaz, Logan Stull, Matt Keeler, Matt S., Max $1 million, Missing Vladdy More Than Ever, My Bum is on the Swedish. I love Reed's names. They're wild. Papa Woody, Parking on the Street, Revi DeLuca, Terry Actual, Trevor Pevavar, Zach Handyside, and Zach McCann, a driving range superstar. Thank you all so much. We'll get through these last 13 games together.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockey Town Evan.